Ooh, we have a lot to talk about today. It has become tighter atop the Premier League in the race for the title. Teams like Aston Villa and Brighton are looking to upset the established order in the top four, and Real Madrid have bolstered their Champions League title defense in the quarterfinal round. Stick around, we will cover all of this and more on the supporter section. Grab your scarves. We start right now. Well, welcome into the supporter section. I am Cole Carter, and this is episode 66 of the supporter section podcast. Go ahead and leave a like and subscribe if you have not already, because we are well on our way to 100 subscribers, and we would love to get there by this summer. So go ahead and help us out. Do that right now. And I have my good friend here with me, Brandon Paid Snakes. Steve's not here today, Brandon, but hey, that's not going to stop us from having a good episode. And it just makes me think things that are good, and that reminds me that spring is fully here, and it's got me feeling good. Brandon, what has been your favorite part about spring being back so far?
It's probably the sun, honestly. The sun bringing back some warmth to Ohio. We had actually a really mild winter. It was less than mild. I don't even know what you call that. Very, little snow, if any. I don't remember. So, anywho, the sun is back out, though, warming things up. Today was 42 and windy and rainy, but that's an outlier over the past 2 weeks. The sun is out. People are smiling. People are out and about. It's getting me ready for summer and my vacation in a couple weeks, so I'm really excited about that. What about you?
For me, it just means that baseball and golf are officially in full swing, so got the chance to go play some golf, and also the Masters this past week. Man, always love getting to watch the Masters, but hey, love spring. Summer is on the way, and that means we have loads of sports incoming as well. But we want to hand out a golden scarf this week that goes to the person, team, or thing that we think deserves some praise from this previous week, Brandon. And yours is maybe a little bit topsy-turvy, but give me the news.
Yeah, sort of satirical, I guess.
Tongue-in-cheek, maybe.
Yeah. I'm going to go with Todd Bowley for making Chelsea an absolute dumpster fire. If things are going bad for your team, you can just point to Chelsea and laugh. So that's always great. Some comedic relief through the dark times. Even right now, I'm an Aston Villa fan. We're flying, and I can still turn and laugh. So thank you, Todd Bowley, for doing that and making my weeks always brighter.
Yeah, man has done a complete 180 from where they were just a year ago. I'm going to give my golden scarf this week to Yorgos Giakoumakis, the new striker of Atlanta United, replacing Joseph Martinez and getting 4 goals and 4 games in his time with the club. The tank, the Greek god, has been getting it done so far for the Five Stripes. So we'll see how far he can take the team in 2023, but I cannot complain with his production levels thus far. For Atlanta United, and hopefully, maybe Atlanta is going to get back to their former glory that they saw in 2018 and 2019. Well, we mentioned it in the intro that things are getting tight atop the Premier League. That title race is getting tighter and tighter every game that goes by. Arsenal struggling against West Ham, but Man City coasting to yet another win, beating Leicester City 3-1. And Brandon, you saw this one. This thing was over in 25 minutes. And give me the rundown on what happened on this one.
Yeah, it's just Man City basically at full flow, dominating the match. Haaland with a brace. John Stones with an absolute banger. I think that was in the 5th minute, I want to say. He's in flying form. Honestly, all of Man City, they're just all playing at their highest level right now. It's fun to watch, but scary, I'm sure, if you're an Arsenal fan. But yeah, Haaland scored a brace, got taken off, in the 60th minute or at halftime or whatever it is, because he does that every game. Pep doesn't want him to have hat tricks, it doesn't seem like. And just to think about how many goals he could have this year if he played full matches. I don't know, but he did match the 38-game Premier League season record of 32 goals, which was set by Mo Salah in the 17-18 season. How crazy is that?
Dude, he is insane. It's like sort of like you mentioned how he's getting taken out like the 60th minute. Sort of like when, the Warriors, like what, 16, 17, they're just so good. Steph would score like 40 or 50 points in 3 quarters and like they would just take him out and not even play the fourth quarter. It feels like that again. It's just like you have this super team with Man City and you have obviously the superstar in Holland. Yeah, he's getting it done an insane amount of goals. Yeah, Alan Shearer now holds the joint custody record for most Premier League goals in a single season with 34, alongside Man U legend Andy Cole. But those came also in longer seasons. But I just want to say, Holland is just unreal. He's getting it done domestically. He's getting it done in Champions League. He even, when he goes and scores for Norway, gets done. Like, gosh, he's so freaking good. I cannot believe how he's doing it. And some of his goals that last week with the one with the little bicycle kick, just like, oh, he's so good.
It's just stupid. I mean, he can score all types of goals. We've been praising his name ever since he came to the Premier League. When people were down on him, was it a month and a half ago, saying he makes Man City worse? And people even doubled down, like Mark Goldbridge was doubling down on it. Like, yeah, I don't think Man City are as good when he's in the team. No, you start playing a Erling Haaland system when he's going to score you 60 goals a season. It doesn't matter what type of team you think you have. He's going to score you 60 goals, and he's going to blow away the Premier League record. You mentioned it. The Andy Cole, Alan Shearer joint record came in the 94-95 season for Alan Shearer. 34 goals, but it was in a 42-game season. Man City still has 9 games to go, if I'm not mistaken. He's already at 32? What? Like, what? Yeah. He's going to blow it away.
And they don't even play top-level teams either, which makes me think he's definitely going to break that record. I mean, I think the best team they play, obviously, is that Arsenal game. But I think other than that, both teams played Chelsea. And Chelsea is obviously not the best team in the world anymore. Yeah, it really doesn't show any sign of him not breaking that record, which is going to be an insane thing to do. Because who's to say he won't break his own record next year if he sticks around, right? Like, the guy's only going to supposed to get better and better, you would think. And if Man City allegedly can't play with him correctly this year, then who knows what they'll do with him next year. They might even improve their tactics. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he blows the record by maybe 4 or 5 goals.
4 or 5? I mean, I'm thinking he's definitely hitting 40 at least in the Premier League. He's only, 22?
Yeah.
Like, he might win the Ballon d'Or.
Like, after his
performances. Yeah. Like, that's insane, dude.
It seems like it'd finally be the time a Premier League player deserves a Ballon d'Or. We've had Modric, we've had Benzema, we've had Messi, Ronaldo, Lewandowski. It's time for a Premier League player to win. It seems like Erling Haaland is making his way into that Ballon d'Or discussion. But hey, things got a little bit tighter, as we mentioned, with Arsenal. Similar to last week against Liverpool, Arsenal draw 2-2 this time against relegation fighting West Ham. Arsenal were up 2-0 in the first 10 minutes. It looked like things were on their side at the Olympic Stadium, but West Ham got leveled by the 54th minute, and Arsenal just could not find a way to win the game. Saka missing a penalty, his first miss in the Premier League this season. It just seems like, it just wasn't their day. You guys asked last week if the result was 1 point gained or 2 points dropped. This week, is that even a question, Brandon?
No, this is definitely 2 points dropped. How could you think otherwise? West Ham, who is down in the dumps, not playing so well like we've covered. You're up 2-0. You should be able to win a game if you're going to win the Premier League. You should be able to win games with a 2-0 lead, no matter what minute those 2 goals come in. So, I don't know. We have more questions, obviously. But, I mean, what do you think? Last week, did you feel like it was 1 point gained or 2 points dropped? And then this week, it's not a question, is it?
Yeah, I think last week there was a point gained. You go to Anfield, it's not... I think any Liverpool you get, Anfield in and of itself is a journey that's going to take a lot to win there, right? So getting a point there is always important. Kind of putting a little bit of respect back on Liverpool. They've had such a topsy-turvy season, but we've seen a lot of teams. It's just been one of those years in the Premier League. It's very competitive, so you don't always know who you're going to get, and I think they proved it even today as we're recording. Liverpool pretty solid up in the front. So yeah, I think last week was a point game, and this one has to be 2 points dropped. And I think it just falls on Bukayo Saka's shoulders, missing the penalty and having another chance late in the game to get a goal back. And Yeah, not a question. Like you said, it's pretty clear cut that Arsenal, they lost this one essentially. This will look like a loss to them, especially if it comes down to the Premier League being decided by a point or two. It certainly will look like an L when they look back on it during the summer and going into next season.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Just tough, really tough. They just didn't look themselves. And like we didn't get to hear your thoughts last week, Cole. But like, what did you think about Arsenal coming off of that Liverpool draw? I think you just sort of hit at it, but like, did you see anything in their game this week against West Ham that made you feel differently about this Arsenal team?
Well, like I said, I think Liverpool, like we've seen, aren't just pushovers. It was a respectable draw last week, but to draw points pivotally in back-to-back games draws attention to Arsenal's shortcomings. Like I just said, Bukayo Saka did not have a good day. And we saw what they're capable of up front, those early goals from Gabriel Jesus, and I think who would get the second goal?
It's Odegaard, I want to.
Yes, it was an Odegaard header at the back post. Martinelli found him. Those were really great attacking plays. So it's not easy to say that the attack wasn't playing well. It honestly just felt like Saka just had a bad day, and that does not come around often. Like we mentioned, it was his first missed penalty all year, and the second chance came late. That's a little thing that just doesn't go right, and that's how you draw or lose games oftentimes. It doesn't really change my perspective on Arsenal necessarily, I just think on the opposite side of their opponent is Man City are doing the changing of their perspective themselves. They're the ones who are looking unbeatable at the moment, and it's hard to not look at Arsenal and say, man, you guys are going up against this. How are you going to compete? But ultimately, the ball is in Arsenal's court. They're the ones that have the leg up on points, and it's just looking like the matchup that's coming between these two clubs really will be the decider in the Premier League title, and I think that's going to be an incredible one to watch. But what about you? Has your viewpoint changed at all about Arsenal?
Yeah, I definitely think it has. And I'll say slightly. Last week, I thought it was a point gained, like you said. I agree with you on that. This week, obviously, 2 points dropped. And I want you to remember back to a similar time last year, actually, when Heung-min Son was scoring every week and Tottenham were shooting up the table with Conte. And Arsenal just started to capitulate under the pressure of this potential Champions League spot, right? Really, really weird. They started playing super inconsistently after finding a good run of form through the mid-season. They were playing really well last year. This was the first time all season that I saw that same Arsenal team that capitulated last year. Like the very, very first time. They just looked like they couldn't create anything. I mean, West Ham tied the game in the 56th minute. There was still a whole half basically to play, and they couldn't get it done. That is Arsenal of old creeping back in. I don't know if it's a mentality thing. I don't know if it's a coaching thing, but the players sort of went back to like this weird, frantic style of playing and not being sure of themselves. It looked like the pressure was really getting to them. So I felt a lot of deja vu when I was watching this game. I will say, though, I still think it's in their hands, like you said. And again, they have been the best team all season, the most consistent, all of that. And I didn't think the Man City game would have mattered that much because I think even if Arsenal were to have lost that game, they have points all around them to make up, right? It's still in their hands. But like you said, now it's sort of seeming like it's the only game that will matter the rest of the season. I don't know if that's true, but that's what it's seeming like.
Yeah, I mean, these teams both, I sort of said it with Man City, both of them don't have the hardest teams to play, I think, these last 7 or 8 games.
We'll get into it.
I think there's a little bit more to it, but it's going to be interesting, dude. These teams really, really are going to come to the very end. But I think the hard thing is going to be whether or not Arsenal fans will be happy if they finish second. I think normally they would be thrilled with that. But with how long they've been at the top, really just feels like there would be a deep, deep sting, like a big cut that's going to take a long time to heal over the course of the summer. At the end of the day, like the fans should be thrilled with second. You think about where they were last year, all they've been through then. I think just being happy with the Champions League spot normally would be the case. But if anything, it'll serve as motivation going into next season to build upon this year's result. But Yeah, it's going to be interesting if they finish second. Arsenal fans should be grateful for what Arteta and the club has done, but you definitely know it'll sting if they don't win the title. But I do want to talk about going into that run-in between City and Arsenal. Who do you think has a greater advantage in this towards the end of the season? Arsenal because they're only playing Premier League football, or do you think Man City just because they're serial winners who have done it time and time again, have a game in hand, and have a slightly easier schedule?
I think it's Arsenal. To be healthy for the most part, I think Saliba's a massive miss for them, and we're starting to see that, the way they're giving up goals. But to be healthy for the most part, not playing in any other competitions, like, that's really all you could ask for at the end of the season. I know Arsenal fans probably want, the Europa League trophy, probably want an FA Cup, whatever. The Premier League is more important than all of those. I think we can all agree. So I would say Arsenal with that. But Arsenal does have the more difficult run-in. They have to play Man City, which Man City has to play Arsenal. They do play Chelsea, who on their day can do anything. They also play Newcastle and Brighton in that order. So after next week, this upcoming week, they play Southampton. After that is when that run starts. So, and I think that they end the season really easily. So it's really, these next 5 weeks are the biggest weeks of that young Arsenal squad's career. And if they play like they did against West Ham, they're not going to get it done. But if they play like they have all season, I don't know. I think Arsenal still has the slight advantage. What do you think?
Oh, man, it's just so hard. I do think, like I said, I think it was a blip in the radar these past. Liverpool less so, but more so this West Ham game for Arsenal. They still have the talent. They're still, dangerous on the attack. It's sort of like those young guys, young guys, in sports, everyone always talks about how they're just hungry. They're fearless because sometimes they're just ignorant to the fact of the situation they're in is pretty incredible. And these guys might just be thinking, why not us? Why can't we do it? It doesn't always have to be the powerhouse to win. And so, yeah, they might just be that confident that they can win this title. And I think that we should give them the benefit of the doubt. Like I said, I think the result of that Man City Arsenal game will be the winner of the winner of the Premier League. But yeah, I guess I can give a leg up to Arsenal right now, just because it's the points lead, and I think they've shown that they can do it for almost the whole season. Why not do it 7 more games?
Yeah, I also think Man City could drop points to a random team in the Premier League. I still think it could happen. Their squad's not as deep as people say it is. Yeah, they have an amazing first 11, but it's, I don't know. They've dropped weird points this year to random teams that you didn't think they would, and that's why they're in the position chasing Arsenal. So, yeah. Who knows? I think there's some twists and turns left in this season, though.
Yeah, and we'll be excited to see on the other end, at the bottom of the table, we're getting a little bit of separation there. We had West Ham, we just talked about how they got points. Bournemouth with a late stunning win. Wolves got a win, and Crystal Palace, I think, is that back-to-back wins for them now, or is that 3 in a row?
Yeah.
Wow. We're Hodgson getting it done. The man, the legend, coming out of retirement to get it done. So Leeds losing, Everton losing, Nottingham Forest losing, Leicester City lost, and Southampton staying at the bottom. Out of that group of people I just said that did win, who do you think got the best result out of the group?
They didn't win, but it has to be West Ham. Steadying the ship against the top team in the league. They're still attempting to grab a European trophy, and they're also fighting relegation at the same time. It's very exhausting, especially on a squad that's this small. It's a very tall task for David Moyes and West Ham. This result is just a signal for them. It's like the bat signal. It's just proving to them that they can do it. There is hope, right? Something's going to be done, and it's them. They can do it. I think that's a statement result, and they can hang their hat on that going into the rest of the season. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think West Ham's was huge. Honestly, for me, I think the Bournemouth win was just massive for them.
Yeah.
Getting the win so late, honestly, as Tottenham fans, getting our goal in the 89th minute, we thought this thing was going to be a tie, and they just come back together and get a massive goal. I think Bournemouth, that was huge for them. But contrasting for you, I want to know who you think had the worst result out of that group of people.
all the bottom teams basically lost, so they were all bad for all of them. But Leeds, following up their 5-1 loss to Crystal Palace at home, by the way, with a 6-1 loss to Liverpool at home, that has to be like a dagger. Like, it's such a weird thing. What do you say?
I think it's never. I think I heard in the broadcast I was watching. I think they had never lost 5-1 back-to-back times at home, and so to only get worse, 6-1 the next time.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's scary hours for Leeds. Like, they had that good bounce with the new manager when he came in, but with back-to-back losses like this, like, that can do a world of hurt. They seem lost. Their defense has been awful all year. Ergo 5-1, 6-1. Like, and again, both of them were at home. You don't expect that from a Leeds team. The intensity isn't there. They looked okay for the first 20 minutes, I will say, and they did get a goal to make it 2-1 in the game. But man, they're just really poor. I don't really know much else to say, but they are dancing with the devil at the moment. Only 2 points above the relegation line. Yeah. Not sure if they're running, but man, it doesn't matter. When you're playing that poorly, you're going to lose games.
Yeah, it's getting tough for them. Like you said, all those teams. It's just a dumpster fire at the bottom of the league. But it's teams that we've seen perennially, grind it out, find their way back into Premier League contention. To see Leicester City and Southampton, West Ham, all towards the bottom this year, it's just crazy. It's a crazy thought to think that, especially Leicester City and Southampton be relegated this year. That is a scary thought.
They have some players. They have some players they're going to sell this summer.
Yeah, I mean, how if you're Southampton, you're not going to be able to keep James Ward-Prowse.
No.
Leicester City, you're not going to be able to keep James Maddison or Yuri Tielemans. Those guys are too talented to be playing championship football, and especially, those wage bills are also going to be too much to handle going down to the championship. So it's just, it's a mess. Leeds especially, was it too early to get rid of Jesse Marsh, or was it just, I don't know. They're certainly hurting right now.
You have to mention Everton as well.
Also Everton. They're the ones that, haven't ever been relegated, and they're still in danger.
Yeah, their form is bad. We highlighted last week that this Everton versus Fulham matchup is probably the most favorable for a bottom half team playing a top half team. And Everton go and lose 3-1. Their form is not great. They're loss, draw, win. So they haven't gotten a win in 4 games now. They really need to start getting results by any means necessary. And losing to Fulham 3-1, who was on a skid, is just really not a good sign for Sean Dyche and the boys.
No. But you still have to keep a little bit of confidence in Sean Dyche. Just thinking that he's been there before with Burnley, and we'll see how it turns out. Currently, the bottom three, you got 20th, you got Southampton, 19th is Leicester City, 18th are Nottingham Forest. So 7 to 8 games left. Do we think that'll be our bottom three, or do you think there's more twists, Brandon?
I think there's more twists, man. I know Leeds have the players to stay up, but
you call them championship level players all the time, Leeds.
Well, after their January transfer window, they were putting together a team that was good enough, but I think I categorized them before. Go watch that other episode. I'm not going to do it here, but they have championship players all throughout that side, and it wouldn't be surprising if they go down because their defense is all championship players, other than their goalie. So it's I don't know. I still think they will go down after these last 2 performances. They have been awful, and I don't know how you carry that weight and bounce back from those, especially in the locker room, in the dressing room, at practice. How do you go back to your manager and say, "We believe in you still"? How do you tell me? How do you do that? I have no idea. So I still think there's a chance they slip in there. Again, it's still so close. I think Southampton is gone, though. I really do think they could get out, but I think they're gone. Leicester's too good to go down, right?
Gosh, dude, they are too good. That's what's so frustrating. They have too much quality.
They brought in Dean Smith, like we said last week, which is Dean Smith, Craig Shakespeare, and John Terry. They've all coached before. They kept Villa up. They brought Villa up. So they have a good working relationship. I think that gives them the best chance out of all these teams. Nottingham Forest has not looked great in recent weeks.
No.
But Steve Cooper's a good manager. And I think that's what it's going to come down to. Which manager can get their team this final push with 7-8 games left? Who can keep them up?
Yep.
I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. What do you think?
Yeah. No, I mean, I want to give Leicester the benefit of the doubt. I just think there's too much quality in that side to be relegated. I think it would be I don't know the history of the Premier League and all that going back so far, but to think 5-6 years removed, whatever it is, maybe it's 7 now, from winning the Premier League to then get relegated, yeah, that would be a pretty dramatic fall from grace. And to think of the players that are still on the team, including Jamie Vardy, would be a pretty dramatic. And I don't think they're cut out for it. I don't think that they can get relegated. I just don't see it happening. I think a team like Leeds probably would be more than likely to go down. When you start thinking about teams, I don't want to see Everton or Leicester City go down. Those are just the two teams I'm just like, they're too good. They're historically Premier League teams that just don't deserve to go down. But at the end of the day, the ball doesn't lie. Football doesn't always have to be as friendly as people want to make it out to be, as romantic. Sometimes it can be a deadly cutthroat game, and there might be a dark age coming from one of these teams.
Yeah, I think so. Do you think any teams are safe that are in the bottom half?
I think I've thought about it, and I may have said it a couple weeks ago. I think West Ham's fine. A team that's still in contention in the Europa Conference League. Were 7th last season. I think that they'll just come around. I think that draw this past week against Arsenal will be a big push for them. So yeah, West Ham's got me feeling good. Wolves, not too worrisome about. And yeah, like I said, I think Everton and Leicester will come out of things unscathed. But
you don't think they're safe though? Like I think Wolves and Crystal Palace are safe. Those are the only teams that are safe that were in.
You don't think West Ham are safe?
Not yet.
Okay.
But I mean, I think they'll stay up. But I don't know.
Okay.
I don't think they're just safe.
Okay,
yet.
I understand what you're saying. Yeah. It's gonna be crazy though. It is gonna be crazy. But I know it's exciting for you. You're watching Villains, who a year or two ago would have been this relegation conversation potentially. But they can't
this year.
Yeah, it's true. They can't stop winning at the moment though. They just dominated Newcastle 3-0. So that's gonna have you feeling good, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, dude, we are flying. I said this was going to be the game of the weekend, and it was for me, but Villa played Newcastle off the pitch, and it's not easy to do. The most consistent defense in the league, the best defense in the league this year. We just put 3 past them, and they didn't really look like scoring ever. So it's this weird thing, because I know this amazing run is going to come to an end for Villa. I think it's 7 unbeaten, with 6 of those being wins. But I'm like, who? We're not playing in any other competitions. Our squad is pretty healthy. We have a good lineup. Unai Emery's an amazing tactician. We adjust mid-game, before game to whoever we're playing. Like it's so good at the moment. I've never been so happy with a team other than when Atlanta United won the championship.
True.
Like I've never been so happy. I know the run's going to end, and it could happen this week to Brentford. We have a pretty tough schedule, like a run in. But if those go right for us, man, we could be in fighting for Champions League. I have no idea. It's crazy right now for us, but I'm going to be enjoying it. That's all I'm going to say. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, there's so many storylines this season, and I don't think anyone expected Aston Villa to be a storyline for a European spot this season. So pretty awesome to see, I'm sure, especially your side of being a supporter of the club. But Brighton, they just beat Chelsea 2-1, making Chelsea look like a championship team. It's just, Brighton just looks so solid, so good, unreal, just amazing goal from Julio Enciso, I think, in the 70th minute. I think it's his name. His first in the Premier League, just perfectly pinpointed shot. May never hit a better shot in his life. Putting that thing in the top left corner, kept at full extension, couldn't even get a finger to it. Pretty incredible. Brighton also had the expected goal of 2.94. That's
Very high.
pretty good. Pretty
It's
good.
very high.
But so the Seagulls really dealt not only a blow to Chelsea, but with 2 games in hand over Villa and Tottenham, may have landed a major punch in the race for 4th place. So that's an interesting tidbit. They sell players. They sell their manager. They had 2 players get injured in the first half. They save on a 19-year-old Paraguayan, and he scores an absolute banger for the win. But Brandon, Chelsea the same as always.
Yeah, I'll say this for Brian. Nothing's going to stop them, it seems like. Them and Villa are in like the same vein right now, it seems. I think Brighton's better than Villa, but very different teams and like tactically. But go watch those teams if you haven't. They're in really good form and very, very fun. Brighton probably more so than Villa. Brighton will probably get top 4. I wouldn't be surprised. They're heavily in the race. Chelsea, they're the same as always, dude. And we're going to talk about them later when we talk about Champions League. It just seems like there's 10 players running around the field trying to make things happen. Sometimes it links up and it looks nice, but I think that's literally just from them practicing together. Like, there's nothing happening in actual practice. Like, Frank Lampard is not doing tactical drills with them. I think he's just coasting it out. Like, it was just really, really poor from them again. And it's just weird to watch. They're lucky it wasn't 3, 4, 5 to Brighton, honestly. With an XG of 3, basically, they could have scored more. Like, it's Chelsea, man. What are they good at?
I don't know.
Anything?
They're good at giving up goals.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't watch Chelsea games enough to have a specific answer, but they of late have not shown resilience, I think is a good thing.
Yeah,
Not a good thing, but something to point out is that they just haven't shown any resilience. They haven't shown any cohesiveness, which sort of makes me think of a comparison that's pretty goofy. But to anyone who's seen Toy Story 4, you have obviously Buzz Lightyear, you have Woody, these well put together, nice toys, and you have Sporky, this kind of ragtag spork with what are they called, pipe cleaner arms and googly eyes, and that sort of feels like what Chelsea as a team are. They're just not well put together. There's not any real theme to them. They're just there, and they're very goofy and just kind of gangly looking, and that's sort of just where my mind went. Is just this team is just not who they were a year ago and who they were 6 months ago. Obviously, a lot of that has to do with the players that they brought in, the ones that aren't a part of the club anymore. The manager situation has just been abysmal, and it's hard to say, what's right, what's wrong with the club, because it is such a disaster everywhere you look that every room feels like a horror room. It's like 99 floors of horrors at Chelsea right now. You might get 5 or 6 good floors, but a lot of them are just, frights waiting to happen. And I don't think Frank was going to get the job at the end of the year. But Brandon, I mean, has he made them worse? Like, is that what's happening right now? Is he making them worse after being appointed interim manager?
Yeah, well, I'll ask you, is he a better manager than Graham Potter?
At this point, I really don't think, after the firing of Tuchel, I really don't think it mattered who was going to be manager at Chelsea this year. Honestly, you said it the whole time. Chelsea don't have a striker. Chelsea don't have someone up front that's going to get them goals. You have a pretty good defense when they're healthy Koulibaly and Thiago Silva. Thiago Silva's out right now. I think Koulibaly got hurt in Champions League. I think
Thiago Silva's back.
So anyways,
I don't know.
So their defense has been banged up a bit. The midfield, Conte has played like 6 games this year. He's played for 4 different managers in those 5 or 6 games. Again, it's just like you're buying Mudryk for like 100-something million. I don't know. I don't think Graham Potter or Frank Lampard necessarily stood much of a chance. They obviously didn't make anything better. But once you got rid of Tuchel, I'm sure that dressing room had little chance at being successful this season. Definitely not 12th or 11th that they're in right now. But they definitely, it was not going to be a good year.
I mean, I think Graham Potter is way better than Frank Lampard, but that's what I'm saying. Why wouldn't you just end the season then? And then you would have basically a full season under a manager, and then he can work really hard this summer And like we've been saying, Chelsea has a deep roster now. Guys on long contracts, young. Like I feel like they're pretty well rounded. There's the puzzle pieces are just all over the table still. Nothing is being put together. Everyone's just looking at the puzzle saying, does anybody want to try to put it together? I just don't know why Frank Lampard is there. I don't understand it. I think it's maybe to get in Todd Bowley to get in good standing with the fans. But like, I don't know. He definitely has made Chelsea worse over these last 3 games or whatever it's been.
It feels like Todd Bowley was in a bumpy road trying to put makeup on. Like you're just missing and it's looking horrible. It's a horrible makeup job. Trying to make something look pretty and it's really turned out to look really ugly. That's what his ownership has looked like this week, and it's hard for me to put much blame on Lampard or Graham Potter.
Yeah, poor Frank Lampard. But where do you think he'll go from here? Because he's obviously not getting the Chelsea job.
I think he'll go and enjoy a year or two being a Chelsea legend, doing some stadium tours, doing some community work. I think he needs to take at least a season off. Kind of, if he still wants to continue to manage, I just think he needs a year to get a staff that he trusts, get a place that'll fit him. Honestly, I don't see why he wouldn't even come in and maybe enjoy MLS. You know, he has connections to MLS. What do you think? Do you think that'd be a decent fit for him, or do you think he needs to quit managing all in all, or do you think he'll stay in Europe?
I don't know, man. I don't know if the MLS move, if he would like that. You know, Europeans look down on MLS.
But he's a part of it, though. I mean, he served his time, and all those guys talk up the league. At some point, it might be the kind of reverse launching pad from a player typically going back to Europe. He might do it as a manager. Who knows?
I mean, I think he might go back to the championship. He had some good success with Derby, wasn't it? Derby County. So I think that's where he would go, if anywhere. But he's going to have to take a hard look and maybe become a number 2 somewhere. Learn under a manager, like a historic manager in the championship. Like that might not be a bad sort of route to take. And then if that manager retires or moves on, or whatever, you step up into that role. I don't think that would be the worst thing for him.
I mean, maybe he could go and work with the national team, perhaps get ready for the Euros. That could be a good option for him if that's even something they'd be looking to. But I don't know. Yeah,
being a Premier League manager is obviously really difficult. There's been 13 sackings this year, I think we said, something like that.
Brutal.
So it's brutal, and it's very, very difficult to do. So I mean, give him credit there, but yeah. I have a fun question for you.
Okay, go for it.
If you take Tuchel's points away, he managed 6 Premier League games at the beginning of the season. If you take Thomas Tuchel's points away, do you know how many points Chelsea would have right now?
I'm going to say 18 points.
Not that low. They would have 29 points. Do you know where that would put them on the table?
That would put them 17th?
That would put them 16th or 17th, depending. Yes, obviously, they probably wouldn't have gotten 10 less points. He had 10 points. They wouldn't have gotten 10 or 0 points out of those, potential whatever points. So let's say you add 6 in there or so. They're still only like in 13th or something. Like if Graham Potter would have started the season with Chelsea. So it's just, they're so bad. They're just underperforming. And that's the players, right? Like it's all over. It's a systemic issue. But I thought that was funny just looking back to like what could have been if they would have stuck with Tuchel, and then basically Tuchel's keeping them out of the relegation fight.
Yeah, that's a crazy thought. And I do want to kind of land on that point you just made of players not getting enough blame and managers taking the brunt of it.
Yeah.
I think it's happening too often. Too often.
Especially at Chelsea.
Oh, yeah. All the time. Well, Tottenham, they had that loss I mentioned, brutally losing in the 93rd minute to Bournemouth. Congratulations to the Cherries, 3-2 over Tottenham. Yeah, Tottenham fans, Steve.
You want to say anything?
I'll say a little bit. Okay. 1 minute you think Arnaut Danjuma, the guy who'd been on the bench the entire time for Antonio Conte, had finally freed himself, he thought he redeemed himself late in the 89th minute. And then suddenly, minutes later, you're on your heels and you give up a goal to lose it in extra time. Yeah, just a big sigh. A big sigh as a Tottenham fan. It's just one of those seasons. It's so strange, ups, the downs, the drama, just every single day. We got people that are in prison and being banned from football. Our sporting director, Antonio Conte, flaming the club and, mutually leaving. It's just been so much. Then the biggest talking game this time from Spurs supporters was Davinson Sanchez and his involvement in letting in the first 2 Bournemouth goals. All of us know that sport is hard. The level that they play at is sky high in the Premier League. And the poor guy got booed from coming on the field. So long leg gets hurt, has to come off like the 30th minute or something like that. Davinson Sanchez comes on, booed for coming on the field. Booed from his first touch, and subsequently booed off the field when he gets substituted in like the 70th minute for Danjuma. Man, that's so tough. No player deserves that kind of treatment, especially when no one in the stands can even come close to doing what they're doing on the field. So I do feel for the guy. Probably need to look to move on from the club, give him the chance this summer. He already deactivated his Instagram account from it. He's had a rough go at it. You especially remember that Man City goal where he fell flat trying to dive and stop it with his head. I feel bad. He's done nothing to wrong in the club. He's just been poor at the wrong times. But honestly, the goals he was involved with, a bit brutal to lay it all on him. But hey, that is what it is. Tottenham still hanging on, praying for that Champions League spot, but looking like Europa League may be beckoning.
I want to hear what Steve has to say about that, because I know he hates Davinson Sanchez.
Yeah, he would be ragging him just as much as all the other fans. And that's why I get to be the peacemaker, the one to bring resolution. Yeah, he would be like, get him out of here. You should have been gone 3 years ago, which, as a Tottenham fan, I don't disagree with. But as a human being, I have to have a little bit of feeling
grace.
for the guy.
Yeah,
a little bit of grace for him. But hey, Manchester United, they put in a solid performance after their injury bug happens to get the team. They beat Nottingham Forest 2-0 and Brentford losing 2-0 to Wolves. So those two teams getting important 3 points. Man U hanging around that Champions League spot, playing around with Villa, Tottenham, and Brighton. We'll see who comes out on top. But as I mentioned, Tottenham, they have that big matchup against Newcastle. Huge at St. James's Park. We'll see what both clubs can come up with. Obviously, Tottenham needing to rally massive games to try and gain points on an instant competitor. A big swing could come from this one. Brentford and Aston Villa. You just mentioned earlier, you might be a little bit fearful of this game against Brentford.
Yeah, I mean, the Newcastle-Tottenham game is probably the biggest game of the weekend for sure. Newcastle needing a bounce back after the Aston Villa game this past weekend. Tottenham as well. Brentford versus Aston Villa, Brentford's been slipping. Their form isn't great, but they're still a really good side. And it's at Brentford. What is it called? The G-Tech Stadium. Mm-hmm. But man, it's like I said, it's really hard to see Aston Villa losing a game ever again. But I know
yeah, you're on that hot right now.
Dude, we look insane. So maybe it'll be a draw. I think this one might bring us back down. Brentford will play us close. But I don't think we'll lose, man. I just don't think Aston Villa will lose. It'll be a good game though.
Yeah. Teams at the bottom, Crystal Palace and Everton, all important points up to play for, as well as Bournemouth, West Ham. Yeah, going to be crazy. Keep an eye on the bottom half. Like we just talked about, Everton, out of form, Palace 3 in a row that they've won, Bournemouth, big win against Tottenham, and West Ham, big draw against Arsenal. Should be some fun games to watch. The FA Cup semifinals are coming up. Man City and Sheffield United. Man,
can they do it?
Can they do it? I'm going to say no.
They're probably coming up to the Premier League. I haven't checked the championship table, but they were basically dead on.
I think they were second, right? Yeah. I think that's still the case. I don't think they can get it done. But, FA Cup magic, you never know. Brighton and Man U also an intriguing matchup. Which teams will go for the Champions League spot and which one will go for FA Cup glory? Hard to say. Should be a fun one to watch. But around the world, as we do, Champions League quarterfinals have been taking place. The big one I think that most people had their eyes on was Manchester City and Bayern Munich. This first leg was played in Manchester. A true Champions League game, two powerhouses. It was a cold, rainy night in Manchester and really proved to be too much for Thomas Tuchel and Bayern Munich. His return to England was a nightmare start, especially in this quarterfinal. So close to that Final Four in a Champions League final, and just Rodri had something to say with one of the best goals in the tournament, a left-footed curler from way outside the box, and then from then on it was just almost all Manchester City. Upamecano had a rough go at it as well, giving away a sloppy turnover, and his own half was just turned into an easy goal for City, and of course Erling Haaland. We talked about him earlier. Had to get in on the scoring himself, just a monster in front of goal this season. 11 goals in 7 Champions League games. In total, he has 47 goals for City this season. My goodness freaking gracious, Brandon. We've seen numerous dramatic comebacks in the Champions League before. Tottenham did against Manchester City in the quarterfinals in 18. We've seen what Barcelona and Liverpool have done in the past. But Bayern Munich, do they have the firepower to get it done and mount a 3-goal comeback against Manchester City?
I do think they do have the firepower. They actually looked pretty good against Man City. They had a decent game being away at the Etihad. I don't think it was talked about enough. They were just sort of placed as, oh, the Bayern are giants, right? They're just so good. But no, they actually played a decent game. Just didn't get any goals and honestly didn't get like close enough to score. Man City's defense was really good on the day as well. Really crucial blocks from like Ruben Diaz, John Stones. But yeah, Man City was just so much better. They were ticking and they were just moving on all cylinders. Bayern, they do have hope. Again, that roster is stacked. For a 3-goal comeback, assuming that Man City doesn't score, again, all of these games have to start the same way. If you're down 3-0, you're down 2-0, 4-0, whatever it is, you have to get the first goal early within the first 15 minutes. Can they do that? I think they can. And then from there, it's that uphill battle. You have to sort of risk it, right? You have to risk it. But then you have informed Jack Grealish, informed Erling Haaland, informed Bernardo Silva, informed Kevin De Bruyne running at your defense, who, if you're risking it, your defense is going to be exposed. So, look, I don't think they can do it. I think it's all but sealed. But it's hard to count Bayern out.
Yeah, well, I think as you said it, their defense was exposed this first game, and that's the thing. If they can plug the holes and recover well, I mean, yeah, the best chance they had that first game was just Sane ripping shots outside the box. And yeah, he was dangerous. He was taking a chance. It was cold and wet, so the keeper could have made a mistake, but they really didn't threaten much on the offensive side, but we'll see what they can do. They'll be at home in front of their crowd. We'll see. We'll see if Mane and Sane can be friends after their whole argument as well.
Like punch in the face in the locker room afterward. That's such a weird story. I think they're fighting for like last name because they're one letter apart. Like, who I have the better name, Sane. I have the better name, Mane. I don't know.
And Mane had built up a lot of good social credit on the internet too, being a nice guy and whatever. So
yeah,
kind of interesting to see what's happening behind closed doors.
You're losing 3-0. Sane used to play for Manchester City, so I don't know if Sane and Mane have a history there playing against each other. Yeah. I don't know. Do you think Bayern can do anything?
If it was 2-0, maybe 3-0 that's a pretty large hill to come up, and obviously City's gonna score goals, right? I mean that's more or less given. It's hard if you can shut out City. You're probably doing it 1-0, like. Yeah. You might not be able to score a goal yourself. And that's the hard part is they're going to have to score goals and hold City. That's just a lot to ask for, especially that defense that proved to be leaky last week. Teams that have been leaky, we have mentioned Chelsea. They went to the Bernabeu to go play at Real Madrid. Christian Pulisic not even getting the start or seeing the field in this one. Real Madrid didn't even really get out of second gear, and Chelsea looked rather lost after the first Real Madrid goal. João Felix did have a solid look at goal in the second minute, but after that, they really hardly threatened Courtois. Adding a red card from Ben Chilwell in the 59th minute, and things just didn't go Chelsea's way. Asensio had the dart into Chelsea's heart late. And now Frank Lampard now has that uphill battle to fight himself at the bridge. and he needs to try and muster up some kind of result. The game just was always in Real Madrid's favor, but was there any surprises, maybe with the way that Chelsea lost to Real Madrid, maybe tactics or just things that you saw from them in this game?
No, not really. I think this was expected. Real Madrid basically kept Chelsea at an arm's length. Again, I want to be fair to Chelsea to say that they did create some good opportunities for themselves. I think there was two that really come to mind, one in the first minute and then one right after Real Madrid had scored their first goal. Who was it? Sterling almost scored. I think, again, they have a Champions League roster. I don't think they're completely out of it, but I wasn't surprised how this game went. And it's not going to be surprising when Real Madrid goes through.
I was going to say, this is our Champions League title defenders. You can't not expect them to win. So I feel pretty confident that they're going to hold on. Even going to Stamford Bridge, it's going to be pretty, I think, easy for them. Where the goal is going to come from Chelsea, is João Felix going to be able to hold it up front? I don't know.
I think they played like 5 midfielders or something. Did you see their lineup?
I don't remember the lineup. I just remember them looking pretty lost in the game. Especially the first 20 minutes, they actually looked like, I think, somewhat the better team.
Yeah, I think they did.
And that first Madrid goal came and things changed. But yeah, it was just like they would come down the field and then just like stop. They weren't really, pressing the counterattack. They weren't. I don't know. It was strange. You could just tell Real Madrid were playing with purpose. Their interlinking play is just always so fabulous. It helps to have Luka Modric. He just, even at 37 or 38 years old, is still just world class. It's going to be tough for Chelsea. Chilwell is going to be out. I guess you're going to be playing probably 4 at the back now. Cucurella at left back. But yeah, man, Benzema just class. I think that Real Madrid have this one all but wrapped up. But you did see on the other side a 2-0 game, Brandon. Give me the lead on that one.
Yeah, Benfica versus my dark horse, Inter. Cannot believe that Inter is winning, going to the second leg 2-0, and they're going back home. What the heck?
Looking like a good pick there for you.
Hey, I'm telling you. There wasn't really much action in the first half. Benfica did have 2 decent chances, but they go into halftime 0-0. In the 51st minute, Inter do score from a beautiful cross from, I think he's a defender, Tuberea, the Italian, who heads it home, I believe. Maybe he kicks it. I don't know. Whatever it is. It goes in the back of the net. That's all that matters. They go up 1-0 in the 51st minute. And then Inter, of course, elect to sort of stand up their defense and counter the rest of the game, which is to be expected. That's sort of how they've gotten this far. Surprisingly, though, Benfica did not create much. Inter had 2 amazing chances through Dumfries, who is linked with Aston Villa today, by the way, who he didn't convert. I think it was a good save, maybe double save. Then, after defending, Inter get up the field, and there's a questionable handball penalty given to Inter. I don't like to see these ones given, but it literally, did you see this? It deflects off of the defender's head, and his arm is up near his head, and then it tips off his fingers. It's like, yeah, I guess.
It's just like, what do you want them to do?
But it hit his head first and went off. I don't know. But nonetheless, my dark horse scores the penalty. Guess who it was? Romelu Lukaku. He's sort of been a storyline this Champions League run for Inter, scoring the goal last round to get them through, I believe. I'm pretty sure that's right.
I think it was a penalty too, wasn't it?
It might have been a penalty. Can't remember. But, yeah. So he puts it in 2-0, and they basically see the game out from there. Benfica did have an amazing chance at the last second of the game, like literally right before he blew the whistle, but didn't convert. I think it was a really good save.
Was it cleared off the line, I want to say?
Something happened. It was an amazing chance.
Late dramatic, yeah.
It was like a one-on-one with the keeper, and he just didn't score it. So I have a question for you. Inter going back home to the San Siro. We know it's a fortress. Up 2-0. Again, that's a big surprise the way Benfica has been playing throughout this tournament. Do you think they booked their semifinal ticket?
I do. I think that, I just don't think that Benfica have enough as a team. I think they've been pretty well managed this year. But Inter just have, I think, a solid enough defense, especially that they won't be too concerned about Benfica coming to the San Siro. So yeah, up 2-0. You're probably gonna. I would imagine they're probably gonna sit back a bit and just defend and defend and defend.
Yeah.
I feel pretty comfortable about them being up 2-0 at home.
Yeah, I think so as well. We move on to the other Milan game. AC Milan took on Napoli, winning 1-0 against Napoli. Surprising, actually. We did say AC Milan's a really good team, pretty solid, but Napoli's been arguably the best team in the world this year. That's how well they've been playing. Napoli was on the front foot the whole game, as you'd probably expect, but could not score. Milan's amazing counterattack was deadly in this game. They had to create a couple chances through it, and they actually scored their goal through it in the 40th minute. Not much else to say other than Rafael Leao is an absolute baller and will probably be getting picked soon to come to the Premier League or another major club. I know he's been rumored, but the dude is so good. So we'll see if he can do something for AC Milan in the next leg. But this next leg does go back to Naples. We know how solid AC Milan is, but we're also aware of how magical Napoli has been all year. What do you think is going to happen in this one?
See, this one, I am not going to pick the Milan team. I think Napoli just has too much quality. Going back home, their fortress. Milan, I was surprised Tottenham didn't do more damage against even Milan themselves. I think Mike Maignan, the keeper, has proven to be pretty important this year.
Yeah, he's good.
But, yeah, Napoli having Osimhen back, the gentleman with the incredible last name. I don't even want to attempt to say it. Napoli, they're going to be the Cinderella this year. I think that's just sort of my pick, is a team that no one expected. They're going to be the Cinderella. And, I think they'll be AC Milan, and we'll probably get to see another Italian duo go up against each other in the semifinal. That's what I would be most excited to see, and that's probably what I would put my money on is Napoli going through. Do you agree, though?
Yeah, I think so. AC Milan could hold them off, but it's going to be a very tough task. There was a red card in this game for Frank Anguissa. I think that's what he goes by now. He used to play in the Premier League for, was it Bournemouth? Forget who he used to play in the Premier League. Made the move to Naples and has been a stalwart in that midfield ever since. So pretty amazing for him. He'll be missing this next game. And I don't know how important that miss is going to be for Napoli. It could be, it could not. I'm not entirely sure. So I'd be watching out for that. But yeah, Napoli has so much firepower. Not to say AC Milan doesn't. They're really solid,
right.
But
yeah.
Napoli is a lot better, and they showed it this past game. They should have won.
Yeah.
I
Just
think
that one moment of brilliance with Milan was a difference. That counterattacking goal, the big spin in the midfield, proved to be lethal. So we'll see. It'll be exciting. I'm really, really excited for that. But the less exciting of the Champions League, the CONCACAF Champions League, has also been going on. We had the quarterfinal matchups. We saw Philadelphia Union and the LAFC. Those two teams went through. Now we're playing against each other, Tigres and Lyon. So we have an MLS matchup and a Liga MX matchup. That'll be fun to see, Brandon. If you had to pick one of those two MLS teams to go through, who would you put your team on, your bet on?
Probably LAFC. The way they're playing right now, they're just really, really good. I think scoring 3 goals a game their past at least 3 games. They're really good, but Philly, man, they're solid as well. Haven't been showing that in the MLS so far. They've sort of been iffy, but really, really good team there. Probably LAFC with the advantage, though.
I've got to think that they're going for trophies in back-to-back seasons. I'm going to put my money on LAFC. I think that they are just too good and have too much firepower. Last week, you guys did some MLS Fast Fives. And we, yeah. Well, you guys, okay. You got one correct. You had LAFC beating the Galaxy 3-2, so bravo on that one. And then you had neither of you getting that Sounders Portland Timbers game.
Who would have gotten that? 4-1 to Portland.
4-1. No, weren't Seattle up 1-0 up until like the 75th minute as well? Pretty brutal result for the Sounders. St. Louis beating Cincinnati 5-1. That one not good. Columbus Crew, New England. Y'all were close, but not there. And then Toronto, Atlanta United. Y'all were confident Atlanta United would get the win, but Toronto stealing it late.
Almost.
2-2. Not quite. But that brings us to our MLS Fast Five in this match week 8. Some new ones to look at, some predictions for you and I to make with no Steven here this week, beginning with Nashville and for mentioned LAFC. Brandon, you're going to go first in this MLS Fast Five. Your prediction for this one?
I think Nashville can stop LAFC at home. For Nashville, 1-0.
I've got 2-2 in Nashville. I think LAFC coming off of a big week against the Galaxy. I think that Nashville just is that touch better than the Galaxy and will hold them to one less goal, which means a 2-2 draw for me. The Seattle Sounders play host to Minnesota United. This one looks like what, Brandon?
Expecting a bounce back from Seattle. It could be a draw, but I'm going to go with a 2-1 Seattle win.
I'm going 1-2 in favor of Minnesota. Seattle just going to continue to dig their grave a little bit deeper. Back-to-back weeks, 2 big losses in a row at home. No, was it at home? Anyways, there's going to be 2 big losses in a row for the Sounders. For me, and the Galaxy as well, playing host to Austin FC, Brandon.
Yeah, I'm going to say Galaxy get their, I think it's their second win of the season. I think they're only on 3 points or something, so maybe that was 3 draws. I don't know. Maybe that's their first win of the season, whatever it is. I think they'll win 2-1 at home against Austin FC.
I think it gets worse and worse for them. 2-0 to Austin FC. Ownership group, the fans want you out or want something to change. It's a good time, especially after this loss. That's definitely going to come to Austin FC. FC Cincinnati playing host to the Portland Timbers, Brandon.
Yeah, FC Cincinnati, I feel like I have to go for them a little bit. Portland coming off that amazing win, but I don't think they can transfer that when coming up to Ohio or over to Ohio. I think Cincy will win 2-0.
2-2 for me. I think they'll stay hot. Talking about Portland. Cincinnati, they're sitting second or first in the East. So just a good point to keep them up near the top. 2-2 draw on my prediction. Philadelphia Union, lastly, hosting Toronto FC. Both teams needing crucial points, Brandon, and you'll have who?
Yeah, I think Philly gets the points this week. Toronto's been playing pretty well, but they're going into that house, that Philly house. 2-0 to Philly.
Subaru Park, I think it is. And yeah, I think the Union will win 1-0. Toronto FC have been playing somewhat decent this year, but on the road, they will not get it done against the Union. I can't take them on that one. And that is Match Week 8's MLS Fast Five. Always a fun little time to predict and see how bad we are at betting, which brings us to you, Betcha, Brandon, our time that we really prove how much of amateur bettors we are and definitely should not be taken as betting advice in any way. Give me your lock for this week. Who is it and what do you got?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with Brighton to beat Manchester United in the FA Cup. Brighton is plus 135 in this, and I like those odds. They're actually slight favorites over Manchester United. I believe Manchester United is like 185 at the moment. So just the way that Brighton's been playing, we harped on them earlier how amazing they are. To be fair, Manchester United is great. They're looking for a Champions League spot, and they would love a second trophy. I'm sure winning the Carabao Cup already against Newcastle this year. But I think it'll come short. I think they'll come short against Brighton. Do you have one?
I'm going to take Fulham over Leeds. They're at plus 130, especially Leeds coming off that brutal loss to Liverpool. I still think Fulham have it in them. I still think they can definitely win a game. I'll give that my luck. They're at home. Coming near the end of the season, they're still hanging around that top half of the table. I'm going to go with Fulham over Leeds at plus 130. Well, everybody, that means at the end of You Betcha that we have reached the conclusion of yet another episode of the support section. This was episode 66, so execute all your orders, as the Emperor would say. We hope you enjoyed our time together today on the show. If you made it this far, go ahead and leave a like, and please do subscribe if you haven't already. We're trying to get to 100 subscribers, and we're inching ever so close to that number. Thank you if you have contributed to that. But for Brandon and myself, Steve, we missed you. But it's been another amazing loaded week of football, and times are getting exciting here at the end of the season. So until the next one, everybody, enjoy and peace out.